Hello guys, Chris here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm going to be testing a GeForce RTX 3060 Ti 8GB GPU in Cyberpunk 2077 version 2.0. This one is the Founders Edition model of the card. We are running it with the latest Nvidia drivers as usual, and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power-Ups. GPU Z-resizable bar is also enabled, and over on the left, we're pairing it with a Ryzen 7 5800X 3D and 32GB of RAM, DDR4 3600 MHz CL14 in dual channel. Let's get into it, shall we? Here we have it, my friends. Let's start by going through the settings. We're starting at 1080p resolution using the Ray Tracing Overdrive settings, because that's the only way to use ray reconstruction here. But first of all, I want to check it out with this disabled and at native resolution. Here we go. I'm also going to disable the film grain, chromatic aberration, as well as motion blur, and leave everything as is. Right, here we have it, my friends. Ooh, it's looking pretty rough, actually, on top of the car, guys. Even at native resolution, 1080p, aside from the FPS, like the visuals aren't really that amazing. I mean, it's pretty impressive because it's path tracing, but still, it definitely gives out some blocky reflections and pretty much blocky everything here, you know? So now I'm gonna enable DLSS super resolution with ray reconstruction off. Oh, it actually turned itself back on. There we go, this is it. It's gonna be even more blocky this time around. A bit softer, actually, right now, especially on top of the car, but now the FPS are actually okay-ish. Barely playable on the 3060 Ti. This is how intensive this tech is. But again, it's just a technology preview. See, this is what we're working with. This is DLSS quality at 1080p with path tracing enabled. And if I zoom in, for example, you can see the details pretty well. You can't see the details pretty well. So what I'm gonna do is enable ray reconstruction, which will give you slightly more FPS in some scenarios while making the game look like this. It is night and day. It's so much better like this. I love this technology, dude. It's crazy how different it looks right now. Anyway, you can see that the reflections on top of the car now are much better looking, and we gained a few amount of FPS. Like, it's way better right now. Goodbye, Bob! Like, even Nvidia wasn't really talking much about the performance advantages of ray reconstruction. You know, they said that sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's slightly higher, but this makes a difference here. We went from like 30 FPS or 32 on average to 39, and that's a substantial difference in smoothness for sure. Well, anyway, I can say that the picture overall looks a bit weird in some areas here at 1080p with path tracing enabled and DLSS ray reconstruction on top of it, but the reflections themselves, they do look quite a lot better than they did at native resolution even. So great tech right here, once again, my friends, but I wouldn't really play like this on a 3060 Ti, obviously. So let's turn it down to a more reasonable setting for a 3060 Ti. That would be the Ray Tracing Ultra preset. As you can see, the DLSS ray reconstruction is now grayed out. I can't really enable it, unfortunately, at these settings. Hopefully, it will be possible to enable it later on, but again, this is a very new technology, so it only works with path tracing at the moment in this game. Still super intensive using these settings, but it's nowhere near the performance of path tracing, right? Like, this is actually playable at native 1080p with 30-ish FPS. Of course, there are much better experiences to be had even without ray tracing. You know, I think with a 3060 Ti, I would prefer to play the game without RT whatsoever, and we will get there in this video. But yeah, this is a performance showcase, and I'm really curious to test a ton of settings. Alright, so you can see the reflections here using Ultra RT at 1080p resolution native. Yeah, they look worse, definitely, than they did previously, but they don't look as bad as path tracing with DLSS on and the ray reconstruction off, so they're passable, I guess, especially on top of the car and stuff while we were driving around. It was definitely passable and a little bit less blocky than path tracing was. But obviously that frame rate was pretty terrible, so let's enable DLSS on quality, and now we get those really bad reflections once again. Like, the internal resolution of the reflections is way lower than the game itself. So we have DLSS enabled at the moment, which is rendering the game at 720p and upscaling it to 1080p, but the reflections themselves are actually running an even lower resolution than 720p, and that's why it looks pretty blocky and pretty terrible actually. And I would not use ray tracing without ray reconstruction in this particular title. There are some games where it looks pretty good even with DLSS enabled. This is not one of them. I mean, it looks good, but it just looks better without RT and that native resolution, honestly. So goodbye, Bob, once again. And it's dropping, by the way, from 60 frames per second over here into the 50s. Of course, if you still want that ray tracing experience, you would need, like, balanced DLSS to achieve 60 plus. I guess, yeah, balanced is not enough to achieve 60 plus 100% of the time. It will still drop here and there, unfortunately. And now it starts looking even worse, of course, in terms of those reflections and so on, because now the internal resolution is even lower than it was on quality, obviously, right? Over here it usually is pretty intensive as well. I'm sorry. Oh, car is on fire. We gotta get out of here. Oh yeah, the new vehicle combat is here. Oh, look at this. Explosion and everything. Not intensive for the 3060 Ti, even with ray tracing on, it didn't drop from 60 there. In my opinion, if you want to play games with RT enabled, you need like a 40 series GPU, with frame generation especially. That's the setting, the key setting that will make everything pretty playable, especially with path tracing and ray reconstruction. It will look amazing and play pretty well, even on like a 4060, maybe? We should try that out. Anyway, let's turn it down to the Ultra Settings preset, which enables FSR by default. We don't want that, of course, so I turn that off. Disable chromatic aberrations and stuff like that I don't like. And now we're playing at native 1080p using the Ultra Settings preset. It's gonna take a while to apply, so I'm just gonna wait for a little bit. Actually, I'm gonna load the previous game. All right, here we have it. Ultra Settings at 1080p should give us 60 plus the entire time here with the 3060 Ti, I believe. You just need to disable ray tracing and then you're gonna have a perfect experience, basically. The GPU is quite capable if you are just interested in rasterization performance here in Cyberpunk, and it's getting like 70-ish frames per second here. The lowest that we've seen was like, what, 60 something? It's pretty good, guys. Very smooth indeed, zero stuttering. VRAM is completely enough at these settings as well. Is this Bob? I think so. Goodbye, Bob. Get over here. Why is it so slow? Wait. What is this reload animation? They messed up the reload animation. There's no new magazine. Maybe it's the future. I don't know. Stop running away from me, you bastard. I still see him. Come. This weapon sucks. Jesus. All right, wait a second, guys. There we go. I think I got him now. Oh, boy. Okay. All right. This is interesting. This is very interesting stuff happening right here, guys. Okay. I like it. Car chases and stuff. That's very good. Very nice update, this one. I kind of want to go see the puddles again. So let's see the reflections. As we don't have ray tracing, whenever the things are off screen, they completely disappear, as I was saying previously with the civilians, you know? So yeah, they're not going to be accurate, they're going to be really low quality when they are on screen, and of course, if they're off screen, there are no reflections whatsoever, only like those reflections, which aren't really reflections because I can't really see that light anywhere. But yeah, that's what you gotta live with if you don't want ray tracing and if you want good performance with the RTX 3060 Ti. I would live with that, honestly. I mean, it's nice to have the ray tracing capability, especially with that ray reconstruction stuff. It's nice to take a look at it, play around with it for a little bit, but to actually play the game, I would just disable it completely and enjoy the storyline without any RT whatsoever, or just upgrade your GPU if you really want that ray tracing experience. Alright, now let's try quality DLSS at 1080p ultra settings, and this will increase our FPS while making the image pretty nice, actually. You know what? I'm gonna say It looks nicer to my eyes, at least right now. Goodbye, Bob, once again. And Bob's friends, they're all gonna die. Yeah, it looks nicer than it did previously, because now we don't have any noise on the image. DLSS got rid of all of that. And the reflections, well, they're not super blocky because they're not rendering at a super low resolution anymore with the ray tracing stuff. So I will say, if I was playing at 1080p, I would probably pick these settings, guys. So if you haven't played this game, you're just picking up Cyberpunk to play the 2.0 version. Also, we haven't really seen many bugs. At least I haven't seen any major ones so far, so that's nice. That's another thing that they fixed, obviously. Yeah. Play like this, my friends, on a 1080p monitor. But what if you don't have a 1080p monitor? And what if you want even higher FPS? You know what? Let's try it with the high settings. You don't need to lower it down to high. So high settings native gets around the same FPS as DLSS quality and ultra settings, apparently. And 100s over here. It'll never drop from 60, obviously, because it never dropped from 60 on ultra either. But yeah, I prefer it with the DLSS enabled. DLSS 3.5 looks awesome, bro. It's just, wow. Even without the ray reconstruction stuff, the upscaler itself has been updated, of course, and it looks phenomenal right now. You know, it looks better than native resolution. Previously, I think it was up for discussion, you know. Some people thought it looked better than native, other people thought it didn't. But this time, I really think it does, guys. Also, another great thing that I haven't really seen a lot of people talking about with this new update is the inclusion of SMT for Ryzen processors. You can turn it off or on here in this game, and that makes our 5800X 3D run at around like 70% usage, which is amazing. Previously, it would get like 40 to 50% usage most of the time because it wouldn't utilize SMT, but now it's been optimized to run this game properly, and it can get higher FPS than previously. All right, finally, let's play at 1440p. Here we have it, 2560 by 1440 resolution. I'm still keeping the high settings for now without any DLSS first, because I really think maybe Ultra is a little bit too much for the 3060 Ti here in Cyberpunk at 1440p, of course. As you can see, even high settings is getting 60-ish, high 60s though, so there might not be a huge issue. If it drops from 60, it's only going to be like to the mid-50s, I guess, over here. Okay, 59. It already dropped. It's a terrible experience. 59 again. Oh, I can feel it. I can feel the slowdown. So terrible. No, I'm just joking, okay? You can't really feel it too much. I believe it's getting a few more FPS than last time that I tried the 3060 Ti at 1440p. Maybe. Not too sure about that. It's been a really long time, actually. But I am enjoying the experience right here for sure, guys. It feels smooth, responsive with 60 FPS. Also, a lot of people ask me if DLSS doesn't introduce input lag, and the answer is no. Only frame generation will introduce input lag. Using DLSS on quality without frame generation, which is 40 series exclusive, will increase input lag. Okay, you don't have to worry about that with 30 series or without frame generation. I thought we'd need DLSS to stay above 60 FPS all of the time, and while that's true, I thought it would drop a lot more times into the 50s and mid-50s. Now, quality DLSS is enabled at 1440p resolution, guys, and once again, it looks beautiful. It got rid of the noisy image, especially on the road and on top of the car and moving things. And now it's amazing, and it's almost at 100 FPS average so far. Hello, guys. How's it going? Can I rob your car, please? Thank you. Oh, boy. Oh, you're not dead. Okay, there we go. Weird ragdoll right there. He flew for a little bit. Anyway, new police car. Nice. Well, with this kind of performance, I can safely say that if you have a 3060 Ti and a 1440p monitor, you're good for Cyberpunk, because this is awesome. This is gonna be always above 60 100% of the time. It's gonna look slightly better than native resolution here, in my opinion, once again. And it's insane. It's still high settings, you know. It's pretty intensive, this game, but just not as intensive as the newer stuff that we've been getting. Anyway, let's try it on ultra settings without any upscaling. It's selects FSR for some reason by default on an Nvidia card. I don't understand that. There we go. This is it. Oh boy! Oh boy! This is too dynamic for me. But it's actually pretty cool, right? The police chases and everything. Starting to feel more like GTA at the moment. Anyway, the FPS... yeah, they do drop by quite a bit coming from high settings to ultra. Oh boy! Oh, can you give me your car, please? Can you? Oh, am I fast enough? Yes, I am. Die with the explosion, please. Come on. Come on. Why doesn't it explode? Ah, there we go. Where's the explosion, by the way? They forgot it. No, I'm dead. Yeah, we're back to this crappy car, guys, but I guess we've seen enough. It drops into the high 30s, which can feel sluggish. It's still playable, don't get me wrong, but at 1440p you will definitely want to use some DLSS, and with DLSS quality, look at those FPS. We're now above 60. We went from like, what, 50-ish to 70 here in this particular scenario. If I was playing this game at 1440p, I would probably choose ultra settings with quality DLSS, lock it to 60, not 30 for sure, and have fun like that, because if it doesn't drop here, it won't really drop in many places. It will drop, okay, because there are a few places where it's a little bit more intensive than here. Most of the time it will be at 60 plus. Look at this over here, 60 flat there. That's one of the areas that's more intensive, by the way. It still hasn't really dropped from 60. If you want to be on the safe side, of course, just choose high settings with DLSS and it's gonna be fine, obviously. Always above 60, 100% of the time, no matter where you are in the map. You can go to very intensive, like, parks and stuff with a lot of vegetation and still be above 60 for sure. But yeah, if you want that extra visual fidelity coming from ultra settings, I mean, the shadows, ambient occlusion are noticeably better, although not a lot. But it's a little bit of a noticeable difference, you know, in terms of graphics. Yep. You can have that. Obviously, you could also drop it down to balanced DLSS at ultra settings. Still looks pretty good, although it's a very little bit softer. I can't really tell much of a difference, guys. And I'm using a 42-inch monitor here for this, by the way. If I can't tell a difference on 42 inches between quality and balanced DLSS at 1440p, there might be a little bit more noise on the road now, and it might be slightly softer. Okay, or maybe shimmery actually sometimes, but yeah, if I can't tell the difference on 42-inch monitor, you won't be able to tell the difference on like a 27-inch 1440p, and that's the sweet spot for 1440p gaming. Got 79 FPS average, so a 10 FPS boost by dropping it down to balanced DLSS instead of quality. And I mean, this might be the way to go. Next, let's try ray tracing at 1440p. This is not gonna go very well. I'm gonna disable those settings. This is it right here. 10 FPS is what we get without any upscaling here. But now the VRAM is completely maxed out, so we're running out of that precious memory. And that's what's causing the very terrible performance, especially compared to 1080p. Cyberpunk is back at 11 FPS. Dang! You need DLSS, probably on performance, for it to be playable at 1440p with ray tracing. But again, guys, it looked better at ultra settings with balanced DLSS than this on performance. Even if I set this to like balanced over here, which looked great again at ultra without RT, the balanced DLSS reflections are just really low quality. So at 1440p, I'm sorry, but I would not use ray tracing, at least not with the ray reconstruction feature, which is still not out for the ultra settings preset, only on the overdrive stuff. Let's just take a look at the reflections here once again. I guess if you see it at an angle like this, it's really bad actually. And finally, at 1440p, let's do ray tracing overdrive with ray reconstruction and like balanced DLSS. Okay, looks way better, the reflections, compared to previously. but we're getting 30-ish, and it's already dropping from 30. So at 1440p, it's going to be extremely rough to run fast racing for the 3060 Ti, guys. The VRAM isn't maxed out, interestingly, probably because the render resolution is so low unbalanced, but still. What about performance? Can we get 30 plus all of the time? At performance, it starts looking pretty bad, actually, guys. I wouldn't do this. It looks like an oil painting in some ways. Still impressive, though, that we can get decently looking reflections with performance DLSS at 1440p. Yeah, that looks really good still. Ray reconstruction, even at performance DLSS, looks really nice. But again, the performance is just not great here, so definitely don't do this. Okay, guys, let's drop it down to high settings now. Disable this upscaler right here. Film grain and motion blur. And now, let's play at 4K resolution. Okay, guys, I just restarted the game to test 4K here because the RAM usage was pretty high, because we were already running out of VRAM previously and it swapped some things into the RAM. Now, this is the 4K performance on high, and it's extremely intensive. It is actually dropping down into the 30s. It will probably drop down into the 20s as well, so it's not great, you know, although it looks really good, though. Good thing is we have that DLSS support, which looks absolutely amazing, so that will definitely make it playable here at 4K high settings. And personally, I wouldn't go over high settings, okay, because yeah, it's 4K. If you set it to ultra, it's going to be extremely hard to keep 30 plus all of the time with DLSS enabled as well. So let's go ahead. It already dipped into the 20s. And let's enable DLSS super resolution on quality. And look at that. Look at the difference. Once again, it's getting rid of the noise that I saw in the road. On the road, yes. You know what? Maybe the noise was actually accurate, and maybe it's just the particles of the roads, you know, the little stones and stuff like that. But I just think it looks better this way, without all of that noisy effect. This looks really good. If I showed this to somebody else and told them this is native resolution at 4K, I think they would believe me, guys. I really want to see if they fixed the FSR2 implementation in this game, guys, because it had a lot of ghosting. It still has ghosting. Are you serious? Look at that. Around our car right there. What the actual hell? How haven't they fixed it with the update 2.0? They just don't care about FSR, do they? Let's use balanced DLSS now. Okay, now it's almost good enough for us to keep 60 FPS most of the time. I think the averages will end up being at 60 flat there. But now on my 42-inch monitor, I can definitely tell the difference between quality DLSS and balanced at 4K resolution. I guess at 1440p, since it wasn't really my native res, it was already a bit blurry, so I didn't really tell the difference too well. But here, yeah, I can tell. But again, guys, it still looks really good, so I wouldn't really have a problem playing like this either. And it gets 63 FPS average and 52 1% low. So even if you want to play at 4K resolution, you can with the 3060 Ti. This is performance DLSS now at 4K. It's internally rendering the game at 1080p and upscaling it, and it looks way better in 1080p, but I'm starting to see a lot of shimmering. Goodbye, Bob! There's a little bit of its chair on top of our car right now. And look at that, it looks pretty good, doesn't it? I think we got Bob first time around. Oh, he had a neurotoxin knife. I'm gonna equip that. All right, Bob's knife. He was ready to assassinate us. See why I don't like Bob, my friends. A lot of people think that Bob is actually a nice person. No, he is not. He had a neurotoxin knife to kill El Crispo while benchmarking. It doesn't want me to benchmark this game anymore. He was put there by the developers to stop me, but no one can stop me. Alright, I think if you have a 32-inch monitor or like 28-inch, 27-inch at 4K, performance DLSS will still look really amazing. At 42 inches, however, and sitting at an arm's length from the monitor roughly, well, you can tell that it is using DLSS now. Now let's try it out on medium settings, disable this, and disable motion blur as well. This is it. It's the medium preset. Probably accurate or adequate for 4K with this card at native resolution. Still pretty intensive though, getting like low 30s, mid 30s at times. I'm a little bit scared at the moment. I thought there would be a bigger difference in terms of performance comparing medium to high settings in this game. In terms of graphics, it actually still looks really good on medium. Goodbye, Bob, once again. Jesus Christ, where did he go? There he is. Okay. I lost sight of him for a second there. Oh boy, it's a bit of the chair on top of our car just flying there. Alright, there it goes. Oh boy, get out! Get out! These guys are just chilling here. Come on. Alright, there we go. Oh yes, I got the knife. Oh, I don't think that's how cars work. Officer, are you feeling alright? Have a neurotoxin to the skin. There we go. Now he's wearing the toughest armor there is, an entire car, so... But well, with the difference from high to medium being not noticeable whatsoever, I think I would just play on high, honestly. On quality DLSS, medium settings, it drops down into the 50s still, although it's in the 60s more often, outside of these big areas with a lot of people and a lot of details. Look at that. Looks pretty good, though. Even on medium settings, this game looks great. Damn, dude. Wish all of the games in 2023 looked great on medium settings and performed like Cyberpunk. Balanced DLSS will now give you 60 plus most of the time. That little difference between high and medium in terms of FPS is noticeable if you use balanced DLSS. I myself would probably go with this, because medium still looks pretty insane, actually. But if I had a smaller monitor at 32 inches or lower, I think I would go with high-end performance DLSS, guys. Either way, it's gonna look pretty good, though. So, nothing to complain about here. 3060 Ti still has what it takes. Let's stop it there, guys, and let's try the impossible. Ray tracing overdrive at 4K resolution with performance DLSS, right? And ray reconstruction at the same time. Oh boy, I forgot the freaking motion blur. It looks so bad. No, Jack, let me disable it. Yeah, it looks like an oil painting once again, guys. At least you get accurate reflections and good looking ones. I mean, look at the top of the car. They still look pretty good, but everything else, especially while moving, is looking rough. Let's just say that. It's just for fun and for curiosity's sake. Oh, yeah, it's dropping a lot right now. Oh boy, VRAM is maxed out. Okay, I don't want this anymore. Let's do ultra performance. Maybe we can get more FPS. Oh boy, it looks even more like an oil painting. You know what? This is quite a unique art style right now. It looks like a comics book Cyberpunk 2077 this time. Very interesting. Bobby's gone. He's not here. Where did the bastard go? Now we need to kill everybody over here in hopes to get Bob. I think this one is Bob, right? No, I'm not sure. Anyways, guys, that's been it for this one. Thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll be back very soon with another one tomorrow. Love you all. Bye-bye.